Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Yo Antah Pravishya Mama Vacham Imam Prasuptam Sanjeevayatya Kila Shakti Dharasvadhamna अम्न्यांशहस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम् समचरणसरोजम् सान्द्रनीलाम्बुदाभम् जघननिहितपाणिम् मण्डनम् मण्डनानाम् तरुणतुलसीमालाम् कन्धरम् कञ्जनेत्रम् सदयधवलहासम् विठ्ठलं चिन्तयामि विठ्ठलं चिन्तयामि. Pranams to the Lord. Pranams to all Mahatmas in tonight's Eknathi Bhagawat session. We are doing chapter 20. We have finished till verse 239, OV 239. We will start from 242 tonight. Over to you, Sri Hariji.
240. To conceive the existence of the world in this Parabrahman is nothing but a false accusation. A person unnecessarily trembles with fear if he sees a serpent where there is only a rope, but this is his illusion. 241. This illusion is not such that one has to actually take away the serpent and purify the rope. Here, there is only extreme joy everywhere. The false concept of the world in the Brahman is not such that the world is to be removed and Brahman is to be objectively seen. 242. In Brahman, mind loses its nature as mind, and by this sight, the seeker also resumes his reality, which is Brahman. 243. Now the Lord is introducing another method of making the mind still for those who cannot do it by the process of giving it a little freedom and fixing it again, just like a horse rider taming the horse.
निर्विण्णस्य विरक्तस्य पुरुषस्योक्तवेदिनः मनस्त्यजति दौरात्म्यं चिन्तितस्यानुचिन्तया.
Meaning of the verse: the mind of a man who is fed up with worldly activities and apathetic to the worldly pleasures as well as heavenly joys gives up its evil elements like attachments, etc., by constantly thinking upon what his perceptor has taught him. 244. By constantly undergoing great suffering in the chain of births and deaths, the prospective seeker gets irritated and disgusted with everything around him and feels that all the objects of sense organs are like poisoned food. 245. He finds every object to be like a good fruit spoiled by venom of a serpent. 246. He becomes fearfully aware of involvement in anything, and if he is a faithful disciple of a guru, he constantly remembers the advice given by his guru. 247. In his heart, he is already having the meaning of that advice established, and he goes on brooding upon it. 248. When the mind thus meditates upon Atman in relation to the perishable world, his mind gives up proposing and doubting any plans and projections. Thus, the seeker drops his pride about his body and attains the absolute reality. 249. Then his mind is dissolved in the reality. Please remember that this is one of the ways to liberation. But if you find this also difficult, please listen to still another method.
यमादिभिर्योगपथैः आन्वीशिक्या च विद्यया ममार्चोपासनाभिर्वा नान्यैर्योग्यं स्मरेन्मनः.
Meaning of the verse: in this method, the mind should dwell on the Supreme Spirit through self-control and yogic practices, through right knowledge of inquiry into the unity of the soul and the Supreme Spirit, and through worship or through worship of my image or other adorable symbols of my real nature. He should not follow any other method. 250. The seeker should leave aside his interest in sense objects and follow the code of conduct given in the primary steps of eightfold path of yoga via control of mind and control of body. He should sit on a flat, steady seat and mentally concentrate on the root chakra near the anus, and the Mooladhara posture should be successfully adopted. 251. At the time, the apana rises into Swadhisthana chakra and prana. Because of breath control, becomes held up and goes to the lower level from the heart region near the navel. 252. When prana and apana become equal, the vital breath cleanses the dirt from the inner body and brings purity to the body. 253. The said powerful breath reduces the cough and the bile in the body. The said powerful breath reduces the cough and bile in the body and begins to cleanse the various nerve channels, washing or burning away the dirt of ages of ignorance as well as toxins in the body. 254. The vital breath is very powerful. It cleans the body as well as the soul, the inner vehicles of the Atman. This is the greater yoga. 255. At this time, however many calamities attack, many maladies become manifest in the body. Various doubts rise in the mind, and some lower siddhis take the seeker away from his intended progress. 256. O Uddhava, if the seeker has enough courage and keep himself still and unaffected by these calamities, then only the prana and apana work in the required balance. 257. When they meet each other and there is equality in both, the hidden Kundalini power awakens. It takes these two vital breaths with it and enters the central channel called Shushumna. 258. That tremendous primordial power begins to climb the western ladder, central chain of backbone, and the breath with its vitality already penetrates through the six vortices and clears its path. 258. When the Kundalini progresses on the upward path, the diseases and the ailments are prevented, their attacks are stopped, the crooked paths of doubt are destroyed, and great calamities even do not disturb. 260. When the place of Ulhata is overpowered by the Kundalini, the gateway to Brahman, which is very narrow, opens up, and from the thousand petal lotus, there oozes the nectar like the cool rays of the moon. 261. The Kundalini drinks the nectar and puts out the remaining portion of that nectar by which the body starts to shine with a strange luster, and the sense that I am body ceases to prevail. 262. The seeker experiences that his body is more and more purified, and he looks as if he is the living statue of joy of Brahman, or as if the bud of peace and happiness has bloomed. 263. His organs appear as if the life force is concentrated, or as if the creeper of knowledge of reality is bearing a fruit, or the spiritual energy has sprouted out. 264. As his body can become extremely microscopic, he can enter into the eyes of any being, and he can enter into the jiva of anybody and use that creature in order to do whatever he wants. 265. He, as if uses the step of air and at his sweet will travels through the space. This is called Kechari by the master. 266. Even the brilliance of the sun appears like the little twinkling light of the firefly. He is so great that the gods like Indra and Moon hope to get the sacred water touched by his feet for sipping. 267. His consciousness penetrates through the inner complexities in the subtle body, which are called Golhat, Brahmara, Gumpha, and the throne of Shiva, and himself becomes Paramatman. 268. This yoga is very difficult. Seldom a yogi becomes successful. The Lord himself has declared this path as very hard. 269. Had the Lord liked this path, he would not have talked about any other way towards liberation. 270. To listen to the fanciful words describing this path is wonderful. But if one tries to actually practice it, heart breaks. This path is not to be followed by force. Many great deities and sages have failed. 271. The Lord said, "Put this difficult path aside. I'll tell you quite a different process. This is the art of investigation and search. We have to search what you, which is called Tvam Pada, actually is." 272. The bundle of the five elements, the earth, the water, the fire, the air, and the sky, is different from that, which is the Brahman. This bundle has, by misconcept, been created separate and in a limited scope, quite missing the all-pervading Brahman. 273. By the force of the beginningless Maya's flow, being attached to the basic principles, tanmatras of objects, it has brought itself into a conceptual false separateness without any role of the projection of the mind. 274. As mind has itself thought of duality and variety, the seeker has first to instruct and teach the mind only. The Lord is explaining the way of using discrimination for this. 275. Our body, it is true, is made up of unified five elements, but the element of earth dissolves in water, and the quality of smell belonging to the earth gets absorbed in the water. Here, the element of earth comes to an end. 276. When the fire dries up the liquidity of the water, water is also finished by the fire element being evaporated. 277. The air or the Vayu squeezes both the water and fire, and thus the quality of taste of water and the form of the fire are no more. 278. The quality of touch belonging to the air then comes to the end when the sky dissolves the air in its space. 279. When the sky is alone, there is no form, and it enters into Aham principle, losing all its quality guna and function in that Aham. Aham, the sense of I, enters in Maya, and Maya is dissolved into the God Almighty. 280. When, for example, night is completely dark, billions of stars shine in their full brilliance. 281. But when the sun rises, the night is no more and its existence is not seen by us at all, together with all the stars. 282. Similarly, Maya goes into oblivion in the God Almighty with all its functions. As in itself, Maya is illusion. No trace of it remains in the God. 283. The spirit's reflection in the field of Maya is called soul or Jiva. But when Maya is no more, the Jiva is also no more. 284. Then Shiva is also not conceivable. The mind is gone with its qualities and powers, etc. Everywhere, only the spirit reigns and the seeker rises to the highest state of happiness. 285. When in this way, the you, the Twampada, is clearly eliminated, the reality of that Brahman becomes the realized fact for the seeker. This is the method of negative approach in order to reach the unmanifest. Anvikshika Vidya. Anvekshika Vidya. Only selected persons with sharp insight and discrimination are able to sustain this deep inquiry. 286. Now I shall tell you about another method where all this trouble and mental hard work is not necessary. 287. When there is no hard work worth bothering about, but all the results of yoga are easily at hand, the inquiry about you becomes shy here. 288. What is that? It is devotion to me. If my images via Rama or Krishna are worshipped with faith and proper procedure, I am pleased. 289. The stories of my adventures and my virtues should be sung. My name should be collectively loudly repeated. Meditation should be done on me and my real nature, and thus totally I should be the subject constantly in the minds of devotees. 290. There should be my meditation in the mind at all times, my name on the tongue, my praise by the mouth, listening to my stories and my virtues, my ritualistic worship by hand, which should always be done. By foot, he should walk around my image in a temple or go for pilgrimage. He should bow before my image by prostration, and thus he should be always merged into my one-pointed devotion. 292. I am as if sold out to them who are occupied with me and my devotion at all times, and there is nobody so dear to me other than these in all the three worlds. 293. Oh Dhava, if a man is devoted to me in this way, he need not even think of yogic path, because I, Sri Krishna, cannot be pleased by anything else than by devotion. 294. Now the Lord is telling that if at all a yogi commits a wrong action by oversight, it is not necessary for him to perform purificatory rites, etc.
यदि कुर्यात् प्रमादेन योगी कर्म विगर्हितं योगेनैव दहेदंहो नान्यत् तत्र कदाचन.
Meaning of the verse, if a yogi commits wrong action by mistake, he should burn the sin by yoga only. There is no other purificatory action for him. 295. The devotee, having surrendered himself to me, does not do anything, the responsibility of which falls on him. He is protected by me on all sides, but on the yogic path, sometimes a wrong action is committed. 296. The yogi heavily repents for that mistake and he is very much afraid because of that. 297. Just as a lion shudders and tries to ward off an insect, a fly, etc., sitting on its body here and there, the yogi also tries to throw away such sin and to get himself free from it. He is having great remorse. 298. He should purify himself by yogic power, such as breath control only. 299. If instead of his yogic purification, he tries to cleanse his body by clay and dung, he is a fool. That will not wash away any sin. 300. If he has no pinching of inner remorse about what mistake happened to be committed by him, any outward actions will not cleanse his consciousness. 301. If at all, he really concentrates his mind totally on me for half a second, all sins will be burnt. What of minor errors? 302. If anybody advises any other purificatory measures to such a devotee who is so advanced as to meditate on me, that advisor himself will be worth all the blame. 303. So the spiritual worthiness of the seeker is of highest importance in such matters. The Lord says,
स्वे स्वेधिकारे या निष्ठा सगुणः परिकीर्तितः कर्मणां चात्य शुद्धानाम् अनेन नियमः कृतः गुणदोषविधानेन सङ्गानां त्याजनेच्छया.
meaning of the verse, adherence to one's own duties is considered as virtue. By doing such demarcation of virtue and fault, the restriction has been imposed on actions which are impure in order to enable one to shake off attachment of the pleasure of senses, etc. Senses. 304. Man does not need orders of Vedas and scriptures to commit wrong actions in order to have pleasures of the senses. It is his natural tendency. My instructions and restrictions are to free man from his bad deeds. 305. Men are not able to drop their objects of seemingly good pleasures. Vedas show the dangers and faults in actions and also show what is the virtue, so that men would desist from committing sinful acts. 306. Had not Veda restricted sexual intercourse and prohibited it with mother and sisters and certain other respectable ladies, it is quite impossible that the men might have become involved in an unlimited affairs with any ladies. 307. So long as there are men and women in the society, sexual attraction and acts are sure to take place. So, had I not prohibited certain acts through rules of Vedas, there might have been disastrous promiscuity and free sex. 308. Thus, it was so ordained that only a girl of 8 years of age and belonging to own caste should be selected for marriage, bearing all other women of all castes. 309. That marriage should also be accomplished by proper method laid down in the Vedas in the presence of sacred fire and Brahmins selected for that ceremony. Vedas also lay down rules to desist from all other women have relationship only with that wife in due course of time. 310. Vedas have seen how every man and woman is desirous of sex and restricted it only to be enjoyed with one's own wife and created the virtue of faithfulness between them. 311. Similarly, I have through Vedic rules laid down the restrictions about receiving food from the particular people only and by regulated procedure only. Had it not been done, there would have been chaos in the society. 312. In order to avoid the undesirable mixture of races and castes and to avoid undesirable marriages and sexual relations only, Vedas have created the framework of four ashramas and four classes in the society. 313. O Uddhava, to indulge in objects of senses and pleasures, it is called ignorance, avidya, and to turn away from them is really the freedom. 314. Vedas have created the rules of performing actions with a view to introduce gradual withdrawal from the worldly involvements and turning towards self-knowledge and freedom. The framework of ashramas and classes, castes, is also having the same intentions, indirectly leading man towards liberation. 315. Vedas have laid down rules as to the performance of daily duties and occasional obligatory duties according to the status and eligibility of the men in order that slowly they should develop an aspiration for the freedom. 316. Purity of mind is only possible by doing one's own duty without pride, etc. And thus desire decreases. The state of not expecting anything develop in man's character, and the three gunas which cause actions are also curbed. 317. Then pure sattva quality remains in the consciousness, and the mind gets the habit of devotion to the guru and the knowledge, as well as practical experience of the self, both get adhered to the seeker. 318. Please note that when total undivided devotion to the God is established in the character of the man, then only he becomes eligible for the devotion to the Guru. I cannot describe fully the greatness of devotion of Sadguru. Even I obey him. 319. I uplift and emancipate that person who is lucky to get the blessing of the Sadguru. Even I place him respectfully and with love on my head and bestow upon him all my glory. 320. I, the God Almighty ruling the whole world, become a servant of the man who believes that Guru himself is Paramatman and the Supreme God. 321.
Hariyo, Hariyo. I think we can pause here. Beautiful reading. No, what powerful verses these are. My God.
This is,
Please share your thoughts, Sri Hariji.
yeah, yeah, from the uh, I, from where I started to
240.
240. 240. Initial verses. Okay. Initial verses, continuing with yesterday's Ovis about controlling the mind. Uh, uh, and Lord is proposing a couple of other ways and methods by which we can control our mind. Uh, so so one method he says is by constantly the mind thinking that getting fed up with the existing activities, worldly activities and worldly pressures, and he will give up all his attachments, and then uh, he will so he thinks that this world is all not good, and even anything like in 245 he says every object for him seems like a good fruit, but spoiled by venom of a serpent. So he is fearfully became aware of environment, and so he seeks the guru in order for him to progress towards the spiritual path. So this is one way of controlling the mind. uh, so this was spoken about, and then Bhagwan says there are two different methods. One method is to dwell on the Supreme Spirit through yogic procedures, and the second method is to worship the Almighty and have devotion. Devotion as the second method. Goes on and explains how the yogic method, how to do yoga, how it is being performed, how the energy raises from different chakras, how the prana and apana becomes equal, and how it cleans the dirt both from the physical body as well as from the mind, also cleanses the mind, all those things. But he says this is very hard. Bhagwan itself says it. This is a very hard and it is not possible to achieve. Very rarely a yogi becomes successful in this particular path. So uh, God explains all these fanciful words to say the kind of benefits, the best, the method of this particular path as to cleanse oneself. But he very clearly says that this is very hard to. So the easiest method is to uh, like do a devotion. So that was explained in the subsequent verses. So here God takes an example of again another approach. So the same he explains in the negative approach. He talks about five elements, right? The earth, water, fire, and he negates one after the other. The examples were very nice, actually. How the earth gets dissolved into the water, and how the water is dissolved by the fire, and then how the fire is dissolved by the air, and then how the air vents into the space or sky, and it dissolves into the Almighty Brahman. So that way he explains that nothing is permanent in this world and everything gets dissolved, and finally what we see is the unmanifested consciousness, which is Bhagwan himself. So this is another method in the yogic way of thinking. uh, so nevertheless, the best method, he says, is devotion to the God. By having a devotion to the God, all the sins will get purified. So that is what he says. So even if a yogic person makes a mistake, he can only clean by his own method, and there is no other different tantras or any other practices to cleanse himself. So he has to do his yogic meditation itself, or he can just uh, devote to the God. So with pure devotion, all sins gets washed away, is what told in the subsequent verses. Then he talks about the importance of Vedas and how one should adhere to their own duties, and in what sense they have to perform their duties. A clear demarcation of how this has to be performed has been explained. So Vedas very clearly explains, guides people as to how the person should lead a life, and the relationship between a man and a woman, which is right and which is wrong, which is so all this is done in a sense of getting detached from this Maya. Not So it provides an easy path and a guidelines to perform your own duty, to devote everything to the Almighty, while without any ownership, sense of ownership. So that way, again, the point here made is we have to detach from all these earthly pleasures and then focus on the God. So Vedas help uh, uh, in a way. It explains how to lead this life, and then how to devote to the God, how to get detached, and then how to devote to the God, how to surrender to the Lord. And that is how is the prescribed procedures in the Vedas. I think that is all, Varshaji, I could summarize.
Wow, so beautifully. Every point has been said. Amazing. It's so rich, this text is. My God, everything is there. Great. So, any thoughts you want to add, Sajid ji, Nikhila ji?
It was one. Those verses were wonderful and nicely explained. Actually, as Sriyarji is explained very well.
Perfect. So tomorrow we meet and continue few more verses. Venkatesh ji, Hari Om, you want to add any thoughts?
No, I just wanted to re-emphasize on OV 301, and where he says that if at all really that person concentrates mind totally on me for half a second, all sins will be burnt. This is one it is a master stroke actually. And then 319, I uplift and emancipate that person who is lucky to get the blessings of the Sadguru. Even I place him respectfully and with love on my head and bestow upon him all my glory. So, how important is that person who has the blessings of the Sadguru? He's really touched.
Thank you, Venkateshi, for picking up these stories for us tonight. Great. So let's meet tomorrow again. Do the closing prayers. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Hari Om everyone. Thank you for joining. See you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Roshi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.